Yeah, but other than that, for today, I'm gonna do a flex fuel sensor install. So this is just a GM flex fuel sensor that, you know, tests the ethanol content in the fuel, and that will allow me to run pretty much, go to the gas station, and I can either fill the truck up with 100% E85, or I can run, you know, maybe I don't make it or something, I can just pump gas in there, 92, and then just the Haltech will sense that ethanol content change and other things, and then it'll adjust the timing and boost per that. So once that's installed, the sensor, a little bit more testing or tuning to do with that, so a couple more logs and runs, but other than that, motor wise, that'll pretty much be the end of it as of for now. Alright, draining out the last little bit. I measured, I have these zip ties on here, so that's where I know the sensor is going to go. So I got these 2 zip ties there. I'll cut this section out, add my own AN fittings to this, put the sensor in the middle, just connect all my little clasps, and then going up there, and we'll unbolt that fuel line and take it all the way out. Oh yeah, and she's spliced in there now. So we got this all hooked up, got my AN fittings on. Just tighten all these fittings up, put it in the truck, and then start wiring. I did get a plug here, so got the plug to wire into the truck, and then pretty much go from there. Alright, so the sensor's under the truck now, it's plumbed in. I have the pigtail here, just a standard GM3 3-pin. The sensor takes signal ground, not chassis ground, but a signal ground, switch power, and then a output, you know, the signal to the computer. So it's just a 3-wire thing. Okay, so we have the wiring through the tranny tunnel. See it poking through right up there, coming down. Looks like we got lots of room. Comes out. Probably just do it like this. I got lots of wire. So we have the flex fuel sensor completely installed. So you can see I just have my filter here, inline filter on the feed side. Come into the sensor, and we have it wired up. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to it. I mean, with the Haltech, it was pretty easy to add, so we'll get the truck started up, double check these fittings, make sure I'm not leaking everywhere. Okay, so for the rear end, we're doing something totally different. It's kind of an experiment in my eyes. I'm kind of just playing with stuff, but I know with the E85 and the higher boost level, which is at 16.5 right now, it's a lot of power, and I think the rear end needs to be settled out, you know, dialed in, something different besides leaf springs. I did install some traction bars just to hold the axle from moving too much. So I didn't want the pinion angle to change when under load, because that causes the U-joint to just explode, or vibrations, and vibrations break stuff. So anyways, I'll quit talking and I'll show the ladder bar setup for the rear end. So this is called a ladder bar setup, and I guess you could call it 3-link. It's kind of a little different setup, mainly focused around drag racing specifically. This is not something that you would install for four-wheeling, so it does not give you more axle travel or anything, but it's just more rigid of a setup versus leaf springs. So you can imagine this O'Reilly's brake cleaner can is the axle tube, and this bracket welds directly to that, and then this is the ladder bar, hence the name, kind of like a ladder with in between the ladder rungs. And then this at this end actually goes to the frame, so this point will be a little bit further than the front leaf spring mount. I think I just quickly measured it, and it's roughly around 4 inches further. This mount point will be 4 inches forward of this leaf spring mount, which is right here. So it'll be a little bit further forward, more towards the center of the truck. I don't know if that's correct. I'm not a chassis guy, but I think it'll be much better than clapped out leaf springs and not really much of a torsion bar. So you can imagine that will be there, and this holds the axle in place, and it also kind of a 2-in-1. It's a traction bar setup, so the axle cannot rotate or wheel hop. And this right here is for adjustment. This adjusts the pinion angle, so you can turn this in and out, and it'll rotate the axle, and that in turn will rotate your pinion angle. So that's on the front side of the axle, and on the back side we have this other mount for coilovers, and this is just a generic eBay kit, coilover mount kit. And this, again, this crescent welds onto the back side of the axle. It doesn't have to be exactly at the same point as the ladder bars, but commonly it is done that way. It's kind of more, we'll figure out how much room we have under the truck to play with. So this welds the back end of the axle. This has adjustment for ride height, so you can change your ride height, but then also this coilover can also change ride height and preload and all that. But these are just generic speed Speedmaster coils, 250 pound rated spring just off jegs, and the ladder bar setup is from Competition Engineering, and the panhard is too. So you can imagine that setup would be like under the truck. Just these coilovers is all I need, no leaf springs. And then this top of the coilover mount will go to this cross member bar right here. This will weld in between the frame rails, probably with some thicker plate. I have some more plate coming, and I'll use to gusset this under the frame, but I gotta cut out the OEM cross member where the OEM shocks bolt to, and pretty much just 2 frame rails, and then this cross member will go in place of that where I need it to be for these shocks to bolt on the top side. Hello fellow people. So now we're on to pretty much cut the leaf springs out, just on this passenger side. I'm going to start with one side and kind of go from there. I will have to drop the tank to cut off the leaf spring bracket, but at this point I pretty much got the driver's side, or the passenger leaf spring out. All the stuff for cutting. This thing made a huge mess. There is slag and just metal debris everywhere in this floor, but this is where we're at right now. Let me get a light here. So I pretty much have just kind of mocking up the ladder bars to see where they'll sit for clearance wise. So you can see where they're positioned on the truck. The axle is more or less in its original spot. Did some quick measurements just to see where it'll sit, but this is kind of the gist of it. This side we have 5.5. This side we have 6. So we need to come this side 1/4. And I'll move the other side over 1/4. $5.25. And we still have 41. Should be correct. To make sure I can get my bolts and stuff out, which I think I can, like that.
Let's put the nut side towards the front of the truck.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So I can take the bolt out.
Yep.
Backwards.
Yep.
And we got the rest of the suspension in now too. So that red bar is the panhard bar that keeps the axle centered in the truck, and then the cross member and stuff. So pretty simple setup. I did it red, kind of burgundy red to match the valve cover. Just kind of an accent. I don't know, it's just a color I had in the cabinet, so I just slapped it on there and just to protect it for now. But she's pretty much at the right height. These are 250-pound coilovers, and they're definitely too stiff. When I drop the truck down, I think it only compresses maybe, I don't know, not even like an inch, like maybe an inch at most. But it definitely needs to compress when it's on the ground, because I have these things cranked all the way up because it just doesn't even collapse. So I think I will get maybe 225-pound springs and change those out. But definitely not hindering the truck or anything from driving, but it's just definitely, I have to adjust my stuff down to the very bottom hole because the shock doesn't collapse under the weight of the truck, because there's not much weight back here. So that's just another thing to add to the list, but it's not detrimental or anything. But other than that, she's looking good. I'll slap the fuel tank in here and hook it up, and swap out my wastegate and TIG weld a small tube onto that, and then that'll be pretty much it. The engine oil is still mint. I smell it and check it every time I go out for a rip. So everything's in tip-top shape. Yep.